Okay, welcome to another day in paradise. Now, I haven't made a video for a little while, anything of substance anyway, but just letting you know that the car's going good. I've done a few more little bits and pieces to it. I gave it a clean up and a polish, although you probably wouldn't be able to tell. Since then it's been driven to Fielden and back, which is about 30k on a rural road, and there and back, so 60k total. I took it to a thing called Four and Rotor Jamboree over in Mansfield, and had it parked up in the big building there on display, with a whole lot of other cars that were way better than this. Yeah, pretty funny. These not funny but different, not really my kettle of fish, but I drove it there, hopped out, parked up and left. Everybody else has got their little shining rags out and little spray bottles, and given their cars polishes, and then I just walked away and left it. But that was cool. So it was interesting seeing a whole lot of other cars. There were a few people scratching their heads, wondering what the hell was going on, especially when I lifted the bonnet up and left it open, the hood, and they were scratching their heads trying to figure it out. Why was there intercooler in the front? But anyway, so since I've seen you last time, I've done a few little bits and pieces. Sorry it's a bit dark in there, but that's just the way it is. I wonder if I can turn that on. Oh, there you go, I can turn that on. So I've made a funky cover for my gear stick. So now it has an indicator to show you what gear you're in. For people that drive it that don't know what they're doing, they can figure it out, which is pretty cool. I've got my gearbox sorted. Look at that dirty mat, man. I have two buttons on here now, and on my steering wheel, and they are a lock-up button, which is a clicker button, and the clicker button is there for the lock-up torque converter. So when I'm on a long trip or in top gear and I'm cruising, I can click it on and it drops my revs by about 200 RPM, and torque converter locks up, and it's just a direct drive, no torque converters being used, which is good for fuel economy, good for not overheating oil in your transmission. So that's all good. The next button here, which is pretty cool, is, you see that? Transbrake. And I tried a few different ways of getting that to work, and I've got it pretty good now. Maybe later on I'll do a bit of a demo. And what that is it is a button that when you're in first gear, and you try and do a burnout or a take off, with your foot on the brake, all it does is push the front wheels. The front wheels lock up, and with your brake on, and the back wheels just push it along, and skid the front wheels along the ground because it's in first gear. So from what I understand, a lot of the guys that have trans brakes in their cars, they either lock them into two gears at once so you can build boost on the line, or they'll put it into a different gear. I tried to stick it into all gears at once, to make a system that would stick it into all gears at once. That didn't work, it just kept on reverting to third gear. But what I've done is, so I put it in first gear, hold the button down with my foot on the brake, I can floor it, and what it does is, as soon as I touch the button in first gear, it will automatically stick it into fourth gear. It builds up boost real easy and loads up the motor. Doesn't push the front along because it's obviously got no torque in fourth gear, and as soon as I release the button, it jams it back into first gear, and away you go. Like, I couldn't even do burnouts in this thing just in the shed. I don't know if you can see them there, the skid marks along the ground. It's just pretty much the front pushing, the front wheels getting pushed along. But then what happens now is, when I try it out, it will actually, as soon as it reverts to first gear, it will spin them up straight away, so, which is interesting. So I haven't tested it fully, but it seems to work pretty good so far. And I've got all that wiring there. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's just a couple of switches, and they go through the steering boss, and I've used the original 2 wires that run the clock, used to run the clock spring for the airbag. I've used those wires there to transfer the signals through the column into where they need to go. So yeah, and that looks really good. No wires, no none of those horrible wobbly cord things that people have wrapped around their steering columns. It's all done nicely, so all good. So yeah, so that's that. What I'm planning to do today is I am planning on taking it for a drive, later on taking it to the weigh station at the local dump, not to dump it off into the rubbish, but just to weigh it, because I'm curious to see what it would weigh. I'm thinking it'll be over 1,000 kilos for sure, but with this big lump in the back, but we shall see. So, and the other thing I got to do is I noticed when I was at the show I had the 2 engine lids off it, and to get them off and on I have to take the lid off, the roof off, and then I have to take those 2 lids off, and they're held down with funky little, I don't know if you can see them or not, funky little Zeus type push and turn, 90-degree push and turns, and they're a freaking pain in the ass. And I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I am going to change them all over to riv nuts and bolts, because I mean I don't hardly ever have to take the lid off, the lids off anyway, and so yeah, that's what I'm going to do, just change them all over to little 6mm bolts, big flat headed washered bolts, and that will make it a bit easier to put them all back on. You don't have to line everything up and push and squeeze and turn and muck around trying to get them to click, those loose things to click in. So that's the plan for today. Rightio, I'll get onto it. Alright, so these are these little clips I was talking about. These little things here. Push and turn Zeus type clips. Poke them in the hole and turn them. And 90% of the time they don't click in properly. You either got to push them too hard, or they're not set, can't get them set right. Sometimes they grip, sometimes they don't. They're just a pain. So out of all of them that are in there, only about half of them work, and I have mucked around with them, but as soon as I put like a rubber seal along the edges here to seal everything just alters slightly, and they no longer fit nicely like they were set up to. So anyway, I could muck around with them some more, but I think in the end I'm just gonna put riv nuts everywhere. It's just easier. Okay, through the magic of movie, this job is done. So I've got rid of all of the Zeus type clips, and we've got plain Jane normal anodized bolts, and they all fit. It's all got sealing weather strips around them, foam strips, and it's all good. So this little job is done, and also bumped up at idle a little bit while I was in there, because sometimes it's just a little bit too low, and like, you know, I'm talking 600 RPM, it sits the idling at 600, and it's just a little bit too low. My oil pressure ends up going down, and my little alarm comes on to say that I'm going under 15 psi at idle, which is, believe it or not, I thought was really way too low, but it turns out that the specs say at idle, 800 RPM idle on one of these motors, anywhere from 12 to 22 psi is normal, and I've got 15, and that's with the big turbo feed and everything come off it as well. So hopefully that should be alright. So I'm just going to get the lid back on, and I'll take it for a little drive, see how the idlers, and hopefully I'll try and weigh it if the weigh station's open. Okay, so I'm just, it's a bit noisy, sorry. I'm just going to show you how the transbrake system seems to work, and also I can show you the launch control systems as well, which you may have already seen on another video, but I'll show it to you anyway. But so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off and first take off, put it in first gear, and then do a launch. And well, not a launch, just a mild launch. This thing hasn't been tuned yet, so I'm going to take it easy, and I don't know if the thing's going to just explode, so I'll take it easy and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so that may or may not come out. I'll wait till I edit it. But as you can see, the first one was from the doorway, was the transbrake working. As you can see, it seems to work. It's quite interesting, even without the launch control turned on, it builds up boost just with the transbrake. And when I release the button, it changes to first gear, and it away it goes quite severely. And then over here we had the launch control set up. That first boom 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 was the launch control. Obviously I've got to do some setting changes in that to try and get it to pulse a bit faster. I'm not adding any extra fuel into it, but it still seems to be blowing flames by the looks of it. I'll have to look at the video. And the second one there was the actual flat shift, which is once it goes over 4,000 and then I touch the gear lever, it will cut the ignition in a flat shift situation. And you may think it's a bit weird having a flat shift in a automatic car, and the reason being is that when the power's going down and I change it from second to third, it seems to have a slight flare in the gearbox, and I don't like that. So I put a flat shift on it anyway. And I'll show you what I've done. So it's a bit dark in here, but I don't know if you can hear this, but there's a little micro switch that I've set up on the gear stick itself. So as soon as I go to shift it to change the gear, if it's over 4,000 revs or whatever I set it to, at the moment it's 4,000, it will do a flat shift type situation and cut the ignition and what have you, whatever I set it to, so that the gearbox can change gear without it being under load, and I get rid of that little sort of power flare that it has in between second and third, which is the main one. But yeah, so that's all that, and I have a master switch there for my transbrake, and I have the launch control set up on the handbrake. So the handbrake's down, it's turned off. As soon as it's up or just up a fraction, the launch control is set and it can do its thing. So I've got to just play with it a little bit and change the settings, try and get that launch control pulse down a bit. I'm not really a big on tuning and stuff, but I think from what I can understand, I just need to play with the settings, the amount of ignition retard, the soft limit, and all that sort of thing to get the thing to pulse a bit faster, because a big slow pulse like that is probably not the best for trying to launch. Now, the weight of the car. The weight of the car with me in it was 1190 kilos. So these cars, I think they weigh 980 factory, without a hard top, but with their soft top system in it. So, you know, a bit of give and take there. So I would say with what was it? 1190. I'm 100 kilos, so it's about 1090 kilos, and that's with a roll bar and a hard top, a factory hard top on it with all the interior. So it's probably heavier than I'd like, but what do? You know, you've got a steel bloody V6, 3.5 litre V6 in there. So 1090, yeah, 1090 kilos, and a full tank of gas, mind you, as well. So yeah, I can work on that. That's fine. It's there's not much else I can do about it. I mean, I could do some lightning stuff on it, but I think I'll just work on the power for now. Get this thing tuned and legal, certified, warranted, registered, so that I can drive it without having to worry about anything. And that'll be me. So there we go. So that's it for today. It's a nice day. I'm going to go home early and do some fencing on the farm. So yay, awesome. All right, see you guys later. Bye.